lot of numbers of the dead going around.
Okay, morning, everybody. The Punch deliberately used this headline to attract our focus on the fact that they, and indeed us, would like justice to be done in this instance. And that's why not only did they make it front page leads. Now, the Punch historically have always had their eyes on Ibadan because that's where the founder came, that's his origins. And I worked in the Punch, so I know. So this headline is deliberate, that one of the organizers of the fair apparently is the Oni's ex-wife. So that means that the message there is that irrespective of the status of whoever organized this fair, the hope was that justice will be done to honor the dead. Remember, in the eyes of God, we are all the same. And that's why this is gone. The Oyo State Police Command says that they are investigating the circumstances that surrounded the alleged, it's not an alleged death, the death of 32 children and so many injured. The Punch gathered from multiple eyewitnesses' accounts that the stampede occurred when participants rushed to gain access to the venue of event, reportedly organized by the ex-queen of the Ooni of Ife, Naomi Shikemi, and Ibadan-based broadcaster Oriyomi Hamzat, who is also well known. It was now, listen to this. This is where the crux of the matter is. The investigations by Punch also showed that the victims were stampeded to death while trying to break through the main gate of the school. Because it was gathered that provision was made for 5,000 children, but the number that turned up for the event was reportedly over 7,500. Without going into the details, the questions that we'll be asking is, how are these 5,000 children supposed to access the venue? How many entrances did you have? Did you have an entrance and did you have an exit? If you are expecting that number of children who are fragile themselves, how many adults were allowed to come with one child? Did you ask them to buy the tickets at the venue or did you ask them to prepay? We need to start having guidelines on anything that involves public gathering. If you've been to a stadium abroad to watch a match or an event or whatever it is, you'll be amazed at the kind of preparation that goes on to avoid things like this. The sports guys, of course, I'll Femi and the gang, I'll tell them one day, beg them to enlighten us on how, stadia that has close to about 60,000 people, how the organization actually goes. A lot goes into it. The problem with us generally in this country is that we never set limits for ourselves. Okay, we never set limits for ourselves. We never prepare. We take a lot of things for granted. And there's also that, unfortunately, I must say that arrogance of we are the ones, and there's also that lack of respect that happens. I'm not saying in this case for the ordinary person, but I'm just talking in general terms. Narrating the scenario in the video, an eyewitness at the scene of the incident, who did not mention her name, noted that the organizers had invited 5,000 participants for the fun fair, but the situation got out of control when the scene became rowdy, leading to a stampede that led to several casualties. And she's quoted as saying that Oriyomi Hamzat said he wanted 5,000 participants, but because we were not organized, that was why the situation got to this. We were not even up to 5,000 participants. Another participant claims he lost a child during the incident, and he says, rather than attend to us very well, they wanted to fight us. We just lost one child who has been taken to UCH. There's a video that showed rowdy scenes as some children were rushed out of the venue while a woman wailed about the loss of her child following the stampede. Reacting to the incident, the management of Agidigbo FM, owned by Oriyomi, sympathized with the victims. Okay, He, however, stressed, that's signed by its director of programs, Olayinka Abdul-Wahab, who, however, stressed that the station was a media partner to the event and not the organizer of the fun fair. And that's another thing I'd like to advise people. Sometimes you are approached either to lend your name to something or to become just an honorary board member. You know, if you use your name, you need to guard your name jealously. Jealously. See how Oriyomi Hamzat now has been added to this. You need to guard your name jealously. Even church programs, using you as trustee and things like that. You need to guard. Do not be a trustee or whatever of any organization or anything if you are not going to be directly in control up to a point. There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this, and we hope that the needful will be done. We await the results of what police would tell us. Okay, and that's it for now. But do not let us forget the punch emphasis. This, having worked in this paper almost all my life, I know that this headline is cast deliberately, not necessarily to embarrass the woman, but to make sure, of course, Nigerian matter, to make sure that Nigerian magic, that anybody who is supposed to be held responsible for this should be held responsible.
Okay, Jimmy, how do you I'm just trying to find out, when you say responsible, some will say, well, it happened. It was probably an act of nature or something that was, I don't know what term to use.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could be, but it is good to find out what. You see, we don't prepare for things. Even ordinary parties. Even look at the problem we have with our banks. That's a very good example. The bank knows that they can handle only 5 million customers. You load with 7 million. Even with telecoms, if with anything that we do, you must know your limits. And you must know what you can accommodate. Even at events. If parties at events, people just generally, how many people would all the functions been going, Kofi, in your lifetime? How many have started with the MC announcing that we have this entrance and we have this exit? In fact, the way the hall itself is built in itself would have contravened the safety provisions.
I've had the chance to MC so many events, but the ones that will always give me a script and will say, okay, on the agenda, these are the standard house rules, for instance, or the rules.
Yes.
It will be the ones by the NGOs that are internationally funded or have international.
I will tell you.
The oil companies.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was consultant to an oil company, and that was the first time that I didn't arrange the event, but I was at the event. The first thing the MC said before we ever got started is to tell you where the toilets are. In any event, it is always good for you to have, for safety purposes, even parties, an entrance and an exit.
Emergency exit.
Emergency exit that can open up. But we always place a premium on closing up.
Yes.
Don't let people come in. Of course, we also have non-professionals that will compromise any arrangement that you... So what the police will be looking out for is negligence. If there is any reason to believe that there is negligence, the police will be charging, I think at the minimum, for maybe manslaughter or something like that, because somebody has to be responsible for the death of this, and their children.
So, Uncle Jimmy, I remember the Abamoro, case when he was a minister.
Yes.
Where he, they had this Nigerian Immigration Service recruitment. Remember,
yes,
different stadiums,
yes.
a lot of people died. That story, I think, has died a natural death, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, it's typical. That's why the Punch. That's why the Punch not only made this story front page lead. Others are talking about the budget presentation yesterday, which to me is no big deal. We have budget presentations every year. They always come to naught. I don't waste my time on that. And so they purposely made it A, front page lead, and B, put it there on his ex-wife, others face probe. Okay, this is to alert the police that we have our eyes on you. And that is part of the problem that we have. We don't punish people for wrongdoing. Once they're privileged, we perceive that they're privileged persons. We don't punish people. The day we are able to do that, the day we are able to punish maybe I'm not saying this president or a president's wife or a president's son, even for traffic violation and things like that, we will then begin to have a better society. Ordinary traffic laws, we can't. We allow the elite do whatever they like.
But Uncle Jimmy, is there a place for responsibility of the people? I know these are children.
Yeah.
But I've been at events, and I shared earlier with our listeners, where everything was put in place, even down to the security agencies. Even the security agencies that you don't know about were all paid to come for that event to ensure proper crowd control. Everything was done. But you see, people are not patient. I'm not saying this is what happened, but I've seen a situation where people were not, because it was a charity event. And when they say line up, just one person doesn't have the patience to stay and surges towards the gate and wants to push himself or herself, and everybody goes. There you have it.
Okay, so we'll have a bit of the story this morning. Please be patient with me. In 1987 or 88, I was head corpcoms of Lever Brothers. Okay. All the AGMs they'd been having had always ended up in a riot. Oh. And that is because they would have the AGM first and then distribute the essentials, the essential commodities, logs, Omo and all these things. And so there will be a stampede. And so I will never forget the support I got from my MD, my chairman at that time, Rufus Giwa. I said to him, because they like to keep the crowd for the optics, and I said, sir, something has to give. What did I do? We've used the National Theatre. I created a point away from the meeting, far down, for you. Once you have your papers, you take your gifts, and you can go home if you want. You don't have to come for the meeting. And that was the first time in a long time that there was a peaceful, you just need to think out of the box. Then sometimes you need to admit to yourself that with this venue, I cannot achieve crowd control. It takes thinking out of the box. And you have to sacrifice something. So there are no excuses for things like this happening, in my mind. There are no excuses. If there's a mess up somewhere along the line, maybe you chose the wrong person to handle this, you will still carry the can.
Even if people refuse to obey instructions.
If you perceive that, first of all, you should ask yourself, is it doable? If it's not doable, leave it. Why do so we know sometimes that some things are not, like you say you want to share palliative. How can you know all this sharing of palliatives really is just a PR thing.
The one that happened in Yaba
is never done. You don't do certain things.
But okay, let's move on. There's a lot to talk. Let's move on. I will have more questions for you, but interesting historical history you shared with us there. Let's go to the Vanguard page 3. The news story there, 2025. Tinubu seeks 34.82 trillion naira revenue to fund 49.7 trillion naira budget. The riders to that proposes 4.91 trillion naira for defense, security, 4.06 trillion naira for infrastructure, 3.5 trillion naira for education, 2.48 trillion naira for health. Says improvement witnessed in 2024 led to 2025 budget as it notes time for lamentation over. Assures lawmakers Nigeria's fiscal realities warrant critical reflection. Speaker about Tinubu's budget hopeless, shady, disingenuous PDP.
Well, it's the same old story. Budgets are never followed. So, if you want the details, they are in the papers. The incident that happened that caught my attention is singing the "On Your Mandate We Shall Stand" at such a this is a very serious ceremony, and it's in the hallowed chambers. I'm going to couch my observations in one warning. People should go down in history and remember that Adolf Hitler was not a soldier who planned a coup. He was a politician. And you can see where all that ended. And it usually starts from things like this. That's my immediate reaction to this. If you want details of the budget, you can go read it up in the papers.
All right. On the front page of today's Vanguard, the big story there, Nigeria-Ghana elections compared. 7 reasons BIVAS may never work in Nigeria. Investigation. Hawa Farijan, chairman of Ghana's Electoral Commission, served with integrity from 1993 to 2015. Nigeria owes him a lot, Professor Jega. Oh, really? Presidents disregard constitution in appointing INEC chairman commissioners. The legacy of President Tinubu can be bequeathed to Nigerians. Is a big one. And after that, we go to the news pages later.
Oh, no, the story is inside.
Okay.
The Vanguard did a wonderful spread. And if you can read it, it did a wonderful spread over 2 pages on the 7 reasons why BIVAS may never work in Nigeria. And I recommend those who are interested in this to go read up the Vanguard. For example, it talks about the critical difference between elections held in Ghana and Nigeria using BIVAS. It talks about integrity of electoral managers. In Ghana, the integrity of electoral officers in Ghana is a cornerstone of the country's success with the BIVAS. Transparent practices, accountability, and a genuine commitment to credible elections have ensured the smooth implementation of the system. The leadership prioritizes the credibility of elections over personal or political interests. But in Nigeria, the human factor has been a significant hindrance. Electoral managers have been accused of bias, corruption, and complicity in sabotaging the BIVAS process. Again, it talks about appointment of non-partisan officials. In Ghana, electoral officers in Ghana are appointed based on merit and neutrality. In contrast, Nigeria frequently appoints individuals with political affiliations or connections to influential politicians. And it talks about retention of proven character. It says, in Ghana values continuity and institutional memory, retaining proven leaders who have been conducting credible elections and whose know-how are applied to future ones, fostering trust in electoral management. They go on to explain that. But in Nigeria, electoral officers with a reputation for integrity are often removed or sidelined. Between 1993 and 2015, for instance, several chairpersons of INEC who resisted undue influence were replaced. They start with Humphrey Wosu, and of course we also know Jega and so on and so forth. Where are the likes of Igini in this process? You know, these are proven people whose integrity we're virtually sure. So it goes on like that. It talks about penalties for compromising the system, contextual factors and human influence on training capacity. It talks about technical preparation. If you are interested in this story, this is fantastic, done by Jide Ajani. I think I'll drag Jide Ajani himself to the studio sometime next week to come and talk about this in full. It also talks about strong political will. And the danger also, it talks about what is called the vanishing tribes of Nigerian voters. A lot of us are expecting in 2027, hopefully not, that far less Nigerians might be inclined to want to go to vote. So it's something to look forward to. Interesting,
very interesting indeed. We have more on the Ghanaian election. The next
you have a problem to ask a question because. But if I were you, I'd take the credit.
Oh yeah. I'm taking it.
Did you live in Ghana as an adult, or you always lived in Nigeria?
Both countries, both ways.
Both ways.
Yes.
Now,
but I spend more time here.
Now, even from this and from what we know, did Jerry Rawlings have anything to do with the thought processes that you have in Ghana now?
Oh yes, absolutely. Because it was who was in charge when the first election, in 1992 under Return to Democracy took place. He transited from being a military
to civilian.
Yes, and he laid the foundations. He's not like super popular, because of the excesses of a military dictatorship.
Yes,
indeed. But overall, when everything has been said and done, I think Ghanaians have a favorable memory of Papa J. Jerry Rawlings.
And things being properly done.
Yes. Unfortunately, the revolution that he led to a lot of people, some people losing their lives, some people being incarcerated, a lot of Ghanaians leaving the country to come to to Nigeria. You know, including my parents. We had teachers, you know, all sorts.
Yes,
everything about it. You know, so but Rawlings was able to reform himself and was able to, you know, set the foundation for a proper, you know, nation. And he didn't rule as a typical politician. You know, on hindsight, some of the things people complained about when Rawlings was president, we've seen that it probably wasn't as bad as what we have today.
Well, I hope we get there without having to go through the Rawlings route.
Yes. I mean, he wasn't really popular in the final days of his administration, and Ghanaians could not wait to vote his party out.
To vote his party out.
Yes,
but that's democracy.
Yes, indeed. And, you know, they are back in power. You know, so let's see how it goes. Unfortunately, let me say, Ghanaians and Nigerians have a lot in common. One, for instance, is the fact that Nigerians had a president in Yar'Adua who had a lot of good intention, but Yar'Adua died, you know, in the early days of his administration. Ghanaians had John Evans Atta Mills. But we also had Jonathan. Yeah, but Evans Atta Mills also was someone people saw wanted to just make things better. It wasn't just he died. I'm just hoping that this president, after having achieved what he wanted, would now make history. When you talk about reforms, you have to talk about the foundation. And the foundation of any reforms that you have to do with the process by which leaders are put in position. If you fail that and you don't do by example, all other reforms will come to naught. The issue with this outgoing president in Ghana is people, you know, feel that he's promised so much but delivered so little, and the economy has tumbled under him. You know, people feel also that corruption has, you know, become has increased in Ghana. Let me say. You know, to the extent that Ghanaians can't even understand. Now they have what they call Operation Recover All Loots, which a new president, the elected president, wants to implement. Yeah, Operation. It's called Oral. Yeah, they want because a lot of scandals. In fact, scandals that, like, you know, Uncle Jimi, let's go. Okay, I'm going to send you to Sheriff. That I said that everybody my honey. So you ask him what that means. There you go again. And there I go again. We almost out of time. We have what do we have? Two and a half minutes. So can we go to the editorial? We can. No. Let's just go. Okay, all right. Let's go to the next one. Important. We have just 2 minutes, which just gives us time to read this headline. Nnamdi Kanu's release may not end Southeast insecurity, and that is credited to Soludo, and it says to launch a joint operation to tackle insecurity. Let's go before this thing catches up. We have like 2 minutes. So. We do. Yes. We do. So maybe we can quickly take another one. This is a news tidbits. Yes, let me take news tidbits. Please stop me before this thing comes up. No problem. I have my eyes on it. I don't like it when it hooks me on the throat. Look at this story in the Trust, for example. It says woman smashes husband's head, abandons baby over infidelity. Wow. My God. Smashes his head. Hell has no fury. Hell has no fury than a woman's scorn, I tell you. And this is the story of a young boy who said how I killed ex-Niger permanent secretary. And it also, there's a story here that says that the Lagos State Environmental Task Force are apprehending beggars all over the city, and 27 have been. There's a controversy about the 10-year imprisonment boy who was sentenced to death for stealing a fowl. But the Attorney General during his tenure has said that the governor was quick to react, and that what he should have done in the first instance is to get a proper inquiry to find out the circumstances that led to the gentleman's imprisonment. You're back at 9 o'clock. I'm back at 9 o'clock. Yes. Yeah. And what are we looking at? What the markets are saying. You know, it's something you must listen to. Stock market or not stock? No, not stock market. Market, the things you want to buy. Okay, chicken, like Tejo Show. Yes. Echo. And okay, all right, interesting. Turkey and all this. No problem. Not called turkey. Turkey. Right. Uncle Jimi, Friday is around the corner. What's happening on Friday? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. Are we going anywhere? No, I'm going home. All right, that's about himself, Mr. Jimi Disu. My name is Kofi Bartels. He'll be back by 9 o'clock. But for now, we'll go for the news at 8. And after that, we'll have a major conversation talking about drug abuse. Uncle Jimi, I have a story and experience when I went on leave. I was driving around somewhere on the island, and I saw a young man on the road. He was dozing. He had gone. He was standing in the middle of the road. We say Uti Wakpa, don't correct. His trousers were down. Oh yes, that's and he was just dozing like this. A pity. Okay, we don't want this thing to catch up with us.
years they go, we dey work for dough. Some days we fast, some days we slow, many highs.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.